Welcome everyone to Discover This. Today we got another video about some of those long lost concert venues and one punk venue at the end. But we're going to talk about the shows that played at these places, and you're going to recognize some of these bands, or most of them actually, and maybe you've been to some of these venues. So let's get started.
1, 2, 3, 4.
For you longtime concert goers, especially in the Southern California area, many of you probably know about the Coach House in Orange County, specifically San Juan Capistrano. Been there for dozens of years. So many good shows have played the Coach House. All different kinds of music, you know, rock, blues, jazz, country. Well, back in the 90s, sort of the mid-90s, the owner of the Coach House bought up a few other music venues in Southern California. The Galaxy Theater in Santa Ana, I believe it was, the Ventura Theater in, oddly enough, Ventura. And he also bought a venue in San Diego. And that venue was just a couple hundred yards west of the San Diego Mission de Alcala, which is where we're at right here. And we're going to head over to where that venue used to be. And the venue is here at the intersection of Rancho Mission Road and San Diego Mission Road. There's a little shopping center here. And right back here, where it's now McGregor's Grill and Ale House. This was the club that the Coach House owner bought, and he renamed it the Coach House San Diego. And again, this was early 90s, but it opened up in around mid-1993. And one of the first shows in mid-1993 was a guy by the name of Ace Frehley. He also had Greg Allman play here in November of 1994. Cheap Trick played here in December of 1994. And there's a video bootleg of this show. There's a few photos from it, but you can find that on the old YouTube. Missing Persons played here. Robert Fripp, The Church, Dokken, the original lineup of Dokken. How about a band called Abraxas Pool? I wasn't even familiar with this band, but basically it's members of the old Santana band. It was Neil Sean, Greg Raleigh, Michael Shreve, Alfonso Johnson. There's also a bootleg of this show. Sean Colvin played here. Janice Ian, Bronski Beat, Flock of Seagulls. How about this one? Ace Frehley and Peter Criss playing together. This show was also bootlegged. Now the Coach House San Diego closed because the fire department ordered some mandatory upgrades to the fire system, and they needed to implement some other safety measures. Well, the owner thought it was way too expensive. And the fire department had cut the occupancy from 471 down to 268, which really wasn't feasible to try and make money and all that kind of thing. So the owner balked at all this stuff, and he ended up just closing the club. So quite a loss. Some great shows, and again, if you're familiar with the Coach House in Orange County, you know how many great shows play up there. But this was the Coach House San Diego. So the Civic Theater was opened with a performance by the San Diego Symphony in January of 1965. And again, many great shows played here over the years, still do for that matter. And they still have a lot of concerts here in addition to the symphony and the opera and whatnot. But going back to the late 60s and into into the 70s. We'll go through a few shows that played at this venue, through some of the shows that played here, not necessarily in chronological order, but let's give it a whirl. How about Joan Baez in November of 1965, and then a month later, December of 1965, you had Bob Dylan. The Mamas and Papas played here. For comedy, you had Richard Pryor did a show here. Pat Paulson, if you remember him, he played a show here. How about Red Fox? Ray Charles, Johnny Cash with Carl Perkins playing together. They played here. T-Rex in 1972. The Eagles in 1973. Burt Bacharach and the Carpenters. Rory Gallagher, he played here a few times actually. Bob Marley and the Wailers. Genesis. Love. Todd Rundgren in Utopia. Jackson Browne and Linda Ronstadt did a show together. Supertramp. Lou Reed. Good blues show with B.B. King and Freddie King playing together. How about Kiss and Rush? That would have been a good one. 1975. Slade played here for 2 nights, and then they came back like a year later and played another night. Boz Scaggs, Iggy Pop, Patti Smith, Steve Miller Band, Chris Christopherson, George Carlin played here. The Kinks. Blondie played here with Iggy Pop opening. That was 1977. You had Willie Nelson. Styx played here a few times. Jerry Lee Lewis. The Police. About Judas Priest and UFO. Cheap Trick played here a few times. Santana. Everly Brothers. Rodney Dangerfield, that would have been a good one. And many, many more. But again, they still use this for concerts. I mean, in later years, you had Pearl Jam played here. David Byrne. Jerry Seinfeld has played here a few times. I mean, just on and on and on. So, Civic Theater, still in use today, but had some great shows back in the day. Now, this may be one of the more obscure older venues. As you can see, it's now a mortuary cremation place. But back in the day, the early 90s, this was a venue called Winters. And Winters, it's at 5880 El Cajon Boulevard. And it catered to the San Diego State University crowd, but anybody could go, obviously. But they had quite a number of good shows here when it was Winters. One of the things they did here was a goth night. It was called Red Tape. And Red Tape was hosted by a gal by the name of Beth Liebling. And Beth Liebling's boyfriend at the time, later to become her husband, but her boyfriend would go out and put flyers out around town and advertise the Red Tape goth night. And that boyfriend's name was Eddie Vedder. You may know him as the lead singer of Pearl Jam. Well, if you remember our video on the Bacchanal in the Claremont area, and when we talked about the Bacchanal, we talked about the fact that Alice in Chains played there in February of 1991. And the opening band for that Alice in Chains show was a band called Mookie Blaylock. Mookie Blaylock used to be, that's what Pearl Jam was before they were called Pearl Jam. Well, 3 nights after that Alice in Chains show at the Bacchanal, Mookie Blaylock played here at Winters. So after that show, they got one of those pesky cease and desist orders from the real Mookie Blaylock, who told them to quit using his name. So they changed their name to Pearl Jam. And then in October, in fact October 5th, 1991, Pearl Jam played here again at Winters. So about 8 months later. And there's a picture here of Eddie Vedder climbing the walls, as he was prone to do back in the day. I don't know if he still does that kind of stuff, but just some of the other shows that came through here. Sprung Monkey played here. How about Caius opening for the Dwarves? Now that's a show. That was on January 18th, 1992. How about Tool playing here in March of 1992? Can you imagine Tool playing here? Lucy's Fur Coat played here. The Melvins in April of 1992. Meat Puppets also played here in April of 1992. Ween played here in May of 1992. And many others. Long gone is Winters. Again, now Mortuary. But quite a little concert venue for at least a short period of time back in the day. Winters. So last but not least, we have an iconic punk venue. Iconic in my opinion anyway. But so many punk and alternative bands came through this place while it was open anyway. And this was Iguanas down in Tijuana, Mexico. And it's at the Pueblo Amigo Shopping Center, maybe about a 10-minute walk from the border if you'd park your car on the US side and walk across. Just a few minutes if you traveled by car and crossed the border in your vehicle. They had a big parking lot, but 18 and up. A lot of crowd came from the US. Some of them came from Mexico, so just a lot of people getting together to enjoy some punk rock. And this is back in the day when a mosh pit was a mosh pit, and people would jump off the balconies inside. I mean, it was chaos. So Iguanas opened up in May of 1989. It was built out for about $1 million. Had a 1,000-person capacity, but that first week they brought in some shows to kind of kick things off. And they had the Fix, Sheila E. and members of her extended family, very famous percussionists. The Wailers came in, and last but not least, there was a Cinco de Mayo show by Jane's Addiction. After that, just band after band after band. So I'll show you some flyers here, not in chronological order, so don't shoot the messenger. I'm going to kind of do them in, I guess, alphabetical order, but you can kind of see through the years who played on the stage there at Iguanas. You had Bad Religion and Green Day, Bad Religion and NoFX, Body Count, the Buck Pets with Soul Asylum, Buzzcocks, the Cramps, the Damned, Devo, the Dickies, Dinosaur Jr. and Nirvana, DOA and L7, The Exploited and Biohazard, Fire Hose, Flotsam and Jetsam along with Prong, GBH, Infectious Grooves, who recently got back together, LA Guns, Living Color with Bad Brains, Mudhoney, 9 Inch Nails, Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Primus, The Mighty Ramones, Red Cross with Screamin' Trees, Red Hot Chili Peppers and the Butthole Surfers. How about the Rollins Band and Tool? That's a lineup. Exodus, Social Distortion, Sonic Youth and Mudhoney, Soundgarden, White Zombie, and many, many, many others. As you can see, a number of the bands came back more than once or twice. Played there many times over the years. You can get on YouTube and see videos of various bands, Circle Jerks and other bands at Iguanas. Some of the shows were bootlegged. There's a Nirvana bootleg from Iguanas and a number of others. Now Iguanas is no more, closed down years and years ago. The building is still there, but it's, at least last I knew, it was Deja Vu, the strip club, but it's still down there in Tijuana. No longer a concert venue, but Iguana's legendary. So that's going to be it for this video on these long lost concert venues. I hope you enjoyed it. I appreciate you taking the time to watch. There'll be more from different places. We got other places to go visit and check out their old concert venues. But I appreciate you checking out some of our other videos, and we will catch you next time.